Welcome back, data enthusiasts. Today's conversation is with Sophia Strohmeier. She's functional lead for data and AI literacy at Mobilair. They are Germany's largest vehicle marketplace and part of the Adevinta Group. Sophia leads the mission to build a data literate culture that empowers teams to make smarter, more confident business decisions. She's an expert and she's an advocate for data and AI literacy. So today we talked about how literacy programs for data and AI should actually look, how you can get buy-in from your data people and for your business people, the impacts and the outcomes. We put this in the context of our own projects and our own pilot projects, which I might add have been very successful. It's a good conversation on data literacy for all levels, whether you're in data wanting to create a culture of literacy and self-service, or you are a data consumer or business stakeholder wanting to understand data some more. Enjoy the pod. We'll start with, what's your history and your connection to data and AI literacy?
Yeah, sure. I have a background for more than 10 years already in an analytical and data environment. And yeah, I would say since I started in early 2013 in an analytical field, literacy was always part of my role. So like providing training for certain tools we are using to enable stakeholders to data and making like data accessible and also make it scalable. What we are doing in terms of the dashboards we are providing or also the data treasure that we have. There was also within my journey at Mobility an analytics university stream where we launched a pilot in 2018 from a central team where I supported the journey in Germany. That was also kind of a literacy initiative, even if it was not the terminology of literacy back then. But it was also about an educational program for business stakeholders to leverage data. And that is, I think, my key connection point that I have beyond the analytical role that I was in as a business analyst in several teams, also enabling the analytics and stakeholders for data.
Great. Okay. So today we'll be talking about data and AI literacy. And I hope that the session is useful for data people in the sense that they can further persuade and influence business stakeholders. So your sessions, your educational sessions with those business stakeholders to educate them, will draw on that some more. Starting from the top of data literacy, and we'll go into AI soon. How do you define data literacy, and why do you believe that it's important now more than ever?
Yes. So I will start first of all with the hook, why it's relevant now. I think starting from Corona times, data is everywhere. We are tracking cases, but also, not sure if you do, we are tracking our health behavior with Whoop apps or whatever. So data is...
Or Apple Watch
Apple
to a
Watch.
lesser extent.
Exactly. So data is everywhere, and it's really a treasure that companies have. And there are a lot of studies around if companies are really taking advantage of the data treasure that they have, they are quite more successful compared to other companies not leveraging their data treasures. And with AI coming and all around the corner, it's even more crucial to have the quality you need for your data assets, but also that you have the same language for your teams. So therefore, the hook here is literacy, data literacy is for everyone. And it's not only to improve the data and AI skills for the ones that are already working with data, like the analytical teams or the data teams. It's for each and everyone in the company to leverage data effectively for their roles. And now I can come to the definition of AI literacy, which is not from me. It's, I think, from Gardner, and also one I'm following, Jordan Morrow, the definition and terminology of 4 components. So data literacy is about creating the ability to read, work with, analyze, and communicate effectively with data. And especially the part communication with data is really crucial, because being effective in communicating your insights will actually draw faster decisions. And that is where the impact for the business side, like creating revenue, ROI from those initiatives, come into the play. And there are tons of studies, especially from DataCamp. There is a report on creating the ROI or measuring the ROI of data literacy initiatives. And companies that have those programs live have nearly 80% more revenues compared to companies that do not have. So they can actually see an uplift in revenues and innovation for companies that have such programs in place.
Interesting. AI and generative AI and agentic AI, how do you think this has changed the game in terms of data literacy and the need for data people to educate business people?
Yeah, I think that's really interconnected. You cannot do the AI literacy without data literacy for several reasons, and I think we cannot grasp all the needs. One is really basic, and that is you need a specific quality of your data that you can actually put an AI solution or a Gen AI solution on top of this, and having the right data quality, SLAs in place, for example, for data products. When we have certain business KPIs, they need to be ready at a certain point in time, and you need to know when the updates will happening, if the data is correct. So quality assurance, all those things need to be in place when you put an AI solution on top of this. For example, for your AI or BI toolings like Looker, if you put AI on top of this, you need a certain data quality for this. And this is just one of the examples why it goes hand in hand. And yeah, why you need an upskilling program around AI. I think it's quite crucial because we all would like to leverage AI tools to be more efficient, faster in our daily routines, a daily work, I would say.
Walk us through how data literacy bridges the gap between strategy and execution. I'm thinking about the day-to-day business context. I'm also thinking about how product analysts or analysts and data people, how they persuade business leaders, how they work with business stakeholders. So walk us through, to repeat, my apologies, walk us through how data literacy bridges that gap between strategy and execution.
Yes. First of all, it's very important that you connect literacy initiatives with your strategy. That's the first point, right? That you do not plan any trainings without any connect to the strategy you are doing, to the use cases you are rolling out. But if you connect those literacy trainings with the strategy initiatives, with the objectives you have for certain time frame projects, then it will have a high impact if it's focusing on certain use cases. And then you have the bridge between the strategy and, for example, the business owner, the business stakeholders that know the business impact behind that. On the other hand, the analysts that know the metrics and how they are impacting and influencing with their analysis on the business metric, but also the raw data. So the data engineers, for example, that handle the raw data will have a different language compared to business stakeholders and the analysts. And with literacy initiatives, you can bridge those three experts, I would say, and connect the dots that they speak the same language. I think the key element of data literacy is having a connect to people that speak the same language and understand what are the most important aspects. If we go to an example of a deep dive that an analyst should do to measure the impact on a project. The analysts need to have the business acumen, the understanding why a relevant or a certain analysis is relevant. But on the other hand, the analyst needs to know from where the raw data comes from that they need to extract for their analysis. And that is then drawing the circle, I would say, between those stakeholders. And with literacy, you can connect the dot, you can provide a training on certain processes and tools, but also you can easily provide literacy sessions for business stakeholders that now understand how they can read a certain analysis, how they can read certain dashboards.
Thank you. I don't want to come across as doomsday like we hear all the time with AI. I wonder, is part of the mission and purpose of data literacy to make our business stakeholders literate to the point where they don't need certain data people?
No, that's not the idea. And here the idea is really, so that's also a slide that I oftentimes use for introducing data literacy and why it's relevant. It's like an umbrella. And there's no one size fits all solution for data literacy. And here it should be tied to individual roles and needs. Learning is quite individual. And there's also a lot of change management that comes into the game here. You need to create the what's in it for me factor for each and every one, for each and every role. Why should I join the specific training? Because it's always a first invest in time, right? First effort to join a specific training, to learn a new tool, a new process. But they need to know why and what will be easier for them afterwards. And also they need to reinforce the learning, not just joining the training and then forget everything afterwards and go back to their initial routines. So that's also a lot of change management that comes into the game. And the idea of data literacy is having a learning path for each and everyone. And I am using certain personas, or I call them focus groups, where I structure a learning curriculum into those focus groups. For example, for product managers, we have a specific learning curriculum, which is completely different to the curriculum that our data scientists have or our leadership team members have.
Talk us through these focus groups some more.
Sure. I have, maybe I can give a short overview of the focus groups we have. I will start from the analysts, the insight activators first, because that is a bit more natural to me and myself. And for analysts, we have a learning curriculum, for example, to also offer future development opportunities for analysts, maybe growing into an analytics engineer in joining trainings on DPT introduction or DPT starters that we just have now, or also joining trainings for Looker developer or trainings to advanced analysis. That is one of the examples that we have for analysts, but also everyone that is, I would say, in the group of data practitioners, because we also have financial analysts or analysts in the sales teams. And for all those roles, we have the Insight Activator group. Then we have a second group, and this one I would say is the biggest group. We call them data consumer, or also everyone using customer data or data to get insights on our customer behavior. That would be product managers, marketing experts, and
Salespeople?
Sales, also sales manager, for example, that would like to understand, and that's now the change management part, right? what is there, what's in it for me factor. They would like to understand what their customers want, what are future trends, or what are customer needs and behaviors to build products out of that, just to simplify the learning journey. And here we are usually providing trainings on business KPIs or main dashboards, or we're using also our self-service solution Looker, how they can navigate to the data sets in Looker Explorers, to highlight some of those. But also when we come to the components of literacy, we have trainings along the components. So for example, we are also providing trainings around communication. And here we have internal experts that we are leveraging for data storytelling, for example, and improving the slides that you are presenting with your pitch, with your business idea, to come to faster decisions in the end. Yeah.
I see. So I now understand the importance of separating the different groups based on the need of the different groups. I understand the need to connect the strategy with the literacy, and not lead with the literacy for the strategy. It's about the business first.
Yeah.
Very good.
And we have just short, we have also, I think, in total 7 different focus roles in our company. So it's not only about 2 roles. We have also a specific learning track for leadership teams, where we also just launched, for example, creating awareness around the topic of AI, what this is impacting leadership team members, or also trainings to get faster to the data, to the top management KPIs. And we also have trainings for data science, and data engineers, which is also different needs that we have, not only from the tools perspective, but also understanding processes that we have.
Very interesting. So there's still a lot of education going on for the presumed data literate people like engineers and scientists. I'm keen to know more about this data literacy pilot that you led at Mobilair. Could you tell me, could you introduce it to me, and could you tell me what the biggest lessons or challenges were? Yeah. And then, of course, the results and the outcomes.
Sure. Maybe also sharing a bit from the timeline when we started this. I was new to this role January 2024. That was also back in time the momentum where we started the literacy curriculum at all. And it's usually a cyclic process. And you start the cyclic process usually with a gap assessment. So you assess the needs in your team when it comes to data and analytics enablement. And that is where I started in January last year. So it's around about 1.5 years ago, where I did an assessment with different functions that we have at Mobility. Sales, you also mentioned this, but customer service, marketing, and many more functions to assess where are your pain points, where do we have needs to understand better the data sets that we have. Are you enabled to reports, and further questions were part of this assessment. And afterwards, I went back to my analytics experts that we have at Mobility, and we have a lot of internal experts in data and analytics, talked to them on the results that we have with the gap assessment, and then drafted together literacy trainings that make sense. One of them, for example, was we also had a big GA4 transition last year. So we also planned literacy and education sessions on the transition to be prepared, but also enabling our stakeholders to the self-service solutions like Looker. So we provided trainings on this, data storytelling trainings to improve the slides we have. And this all I drafted together in a curriculum and started the pilot end of June last year, it was on completely voluntary basis. I was looking for participants that joined the training, promoted this on several Slack channels that we have. Yes, and the pilot was until November last year, where we then had the last session. We collected a lot of feedback. Even during the pilot, we improved the curriculum, added more expert trainers to provide the trainings. It was completely internal last year. So we only had internal trainings with different experts that also offered their support for the program and training the people. Yes, and I think to highlight one of the outcomes from the first pilot, we had a quite high participation rate already. And also, I'm measuring the success of the literacy initiative in a 3-pillar framework. One is, first of all, the engagement, so participation rate, and also then what is the NPS of the training? So can they really apply the learnings, and was this a good return on time invest? And we achieved more than 92%, which is quite high, I think, for the first pilot sessions. Beyond the engagement metrics, I was also assessing the pre and post maturity of the training. So I was also then reassessing the maturity of the teams with the survey again to check, for example, if certain maturity items, let's use the self-service enablement. I was using a score from 1 to 5. We can see an uplift in the scoring here, for example, which was also the case. And then I was also measuring interaction metrics with our BI tooling like Looker. So how many active users do we have? How many people join our open door sessions for expert consultation? I also implemented a knowledge hub in our internal company pages. With the Knowledge Hub, we can also see which trainings already happened, can see the recording, or measure how many people are actually using the Knowledge Hub to explore upcoming trainings, and navigation to experts that we have. And on top of this, I also did a feedback session with some of the participants to collect impact and also opportunities for further improvements, and make this part of our daily company routines, which is now the case.
Very good. As well as the results, I can see how you monitored it closely to look for, I guess, gap areas or areas to work on to gain more engagement. When you were going through the process of getting buy-in from leaders to initiate this data literacy program of work, how did you go about doing that?
First of all, it's so I can drill down into specific teams. So I can see, for example, if specific teams have a lower contribution or participation rate compared to others. And parallel, I can measure the maturity and the usage of our data sets or self-service tools that we have. Looker, for example, or other solutions. And then I can easily go into conversation with the leadership teams, also ask them in interviews, where are the pain points, where are the barriers for your projects, to actually connect them to data assets that we have, and also make our projects measurable with data.
I think I'm going before that stage. So you have these checks in place to monitor engagement and maturity, and a rating of feedback. But let's say all those metrics are very low, so they're not engaged, they've not been using the self-service tools. How do you then go to the team and gain their buy-in to get more usage from the tools and products that you think they should be literate in?
Mhm. Sure. So here,
That will be, sorry to interrupt, that will be really useful for data analysts and product analysts and various data people who are now struggling to get buy-in for people across their business.
yeah, here it's and here is no one size fits all solution again, right? I am approaching this from different angles, and I would still say, open and honestly, there's still room for improvement, right? One
Always
really
for improvement.
Sure. One really crucial learning that I have is to connect this with the strategic planning cycles, so the quarterly planning cycles, to see what are the plans from the business perspective, where they would like to go through, but also from our data strategy. What is the plan? Where would we like to go through? And then connect the dots. In our case, it's really connect the use cases, the projects that are currently high prior projects, with also with the literacy initiatives and what is needed here. We have one example is a data mesh transformation. So that will not cover this in completely, but just briefly and high level. That teams having their data in a mesh decentralized format, and everyone or each domain is owning their data sets on their own. And for this, the teams need a lot of guidance and also education and training how to do this. So getting from a more centralized data ownership to a decentralized ownership, there are processes, standards, and in place where they also need an education on this to own their data sets properly, and then leverage their roadmap and integrate data thinking into their product roadmap, for example. And here, one of the key connectors is having with the leadership team in every team that we have. I have also one-to-ones where I have a check-in. What are the plans and how can we support with literacy initiatives, for example, on key KPIs, on enable like processes, for example, the transformation to owning your data in your domain, and that is really supportive, because then you can tie it to really actual hands-on use cases, and you can then transform the knowledge. Similarly, there was just recently a project with marketing where I could really connect the strategic initiative with the literacy training. And then you get also high attention and value from those sessions, because it's really something tangible, which immediately creates impact through the teams.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I can understand the connection between data ownership, data literacy, engagement, maturity, and teams truly working with the data. But how do you measure the impact of all of these factors on business outcome?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier return on investment. Like what's the business end return for this?
Yeah. And
Not
that's
just achieving the data team's KPIs and goals to get everybody literate.
Mhm. And that's a really crucial part, because you need this measurability to get the buy-in also. And here I'm using also different methodologies. One is a quarterly data strategy survey that we are using for all our data and analytics initiatives going on. And it's a quarterly survey that is rolled out as a pre and a post assessment each quarter, once we have the literacy trainings provided. And beforehand, during the training, we measure quickly this survey insights, which are also covering not only self-service enablement, but also time to decision. So how long do you need to, from an initial question, get to the answer? But also how often do you need support for descriptive analytical tasks from your analytics stakeholders or analytics team members, because this will also count into time reduction in the end. And also a maturity assessment on certain aspects, maturity assessment on experimentation, maturity assessment on KPI frameworks, on data analysis or data storytelling. And with the assessment, you have a first idea. You can also drill down into specific teams, and then you can compare participation rate with the maturity assessment. On top of this, there are interviews going on for the leadership teams, and also we have internally scoring on our strategic project, for example, for data mesh, and we can also compare the scoring every quarter and the development over time. And also one of the items asked during the scoring is also a training participation and training needs. So here I would say there are different angles beyond like tool usage, self-service usage, or easily measurable. The
Okay.
The rates that we can measure for certain AI tools as well.
Ooh,
Adoption.
we'll go into AI in a moment. Can you share a specific example where improved data fluency led directly to a business result? Because you talked about sales earlier, sales teams, marketing teams, finance teams, customer support teams. Can you share an example of where data fluency led to a measurable impact in one of those teams?
Sure, there are different examples that I can bring. If we stick to the marketing example, where we had a specific training on the strategic initiative going on in Q1, there's the example where you really rolled out a high strategic project. Then on top of this, we provided a literacy training from different experts, which was even using the ROI calculation for certain campaigns going on. And then after the training, we really achieved great feedback that the training was actually valuable to roll out better campaigns. So I cannot grasp now into numbers on ROI. If you're asking for this, it was more collecting testimonials from the training that it's actually providing value, because they can easily roll out and run their campaigns with the trainings, have an easy hands-on monitoring with the data and dashboards we are providing. And I think that is already leveraging a lot in terms of self-service enablement, time saving, and efficiency.
Interesting. Okay, so you've given them the power. The feedback has been that you've given them the power. They're able to monitor what they're doing. They're able to be somewhat self-service, and then ultimately greater speed to market, to work more efficiently, as you say, saving time. Okay.
Just one more example for the
Please.
sales team, where we also had a lot of data enablement trainings, where now the teams can easily count, after the trainings, we were able to leverage 20 more self-created dashboards for our teams, thanks to the training, just as one of the examples. And similarly for data storytelling, that I also received the feedback. Now my presentation, I received high valuable feedback, and with my presentation, I could improve my storytelling skills a lot. So that's, I think, also benefiting on different layers.
Storytelling literacy alone is a powerful skill to have, not just for data people, but especially for salespeople, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's almost another topic in itself. AI literacy. Would this program of work be more difficult or even different than your conventional data literacy programs?
No, it's completely embedded into the data literacy program, and you cannot have this isolated. So I mean, you cannot reinvent the tooling that we already have, but usually there's a lot of AI now on top of the tools we are anyway using. And also with the general AI solutions, you need to educate your team members on the EU AI Act to be informed how to use AI properly, and also the education on how to leverage AI on top of certain tools is part of the literacy program. Also, we just launched a new in-house, or it's not an in-house solution, but something we can use in-house, an LLM solution called Langdoc. So also to get people onboarded to this tool, to have training on better prompting, which is also then counting into efficiency, faster time to output. Here we are providing a lot of trainings. And if we go to the individual roles, for example, for product managers, also providing trainings and content on better being able to read machine learning concepts, to ask better questions, is also one of the curriculum items we will offer.
Do you think the outcome looks different for business people in terms of if they were educated in your conventional data analysis, reporting, visualizations, compared to AI tooling and AI capabilities these days? Is the outcome different? Is the learning more difficult for the business stakeholders, or is it's the same for them? It's like for like. There's no difference.
You mean a difference for business stakeholders compared to analysts, for example, or?
No, I mean business stakeholders learning AI as opposed to previously business stakeholders were learning more, dare I say, simplistic data.
No, there is no difference in roles. And I would rather say it should be a connection to the previous trainings. We were also structuring the training offerings on basic, intermediate, advanced. And similarly, I'm doing this for the AI literacy tracks to structure them along those sessions, and it should be connected. It's not isolated, and it's also not a different role. If we call business stakeholders or data consumers, as we name this focus groups, will not be a different focus group compared to the ones for the data literacy trainings.
And they wouldn't find the training to be any different, those data consumers. They'd find the training for AI to be very similar to the training for data.
Yes, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
I ask because technology, AI and data, is evolving so quickly,
That's
and the LLMs to use are different to use than standard reporting in a CRM system, for example. So yeah, that's why I ask. And I'm a data consumer, right? I'm not as much as my education is improving, I'm not a data engineer or a data analyst.
And that's also not where the data consumers are supposed to be somewhere. That's not generally the idea, but they can leverage AI tools to better access the data. For example, if we have market research insights, it's usually their way to go to the experts from market research, connect to them, ask them for recent studies, and then after a week or some time, they will get back the research insights. With AI on top of this, the idea would be to leverage those insights with an LLM. That's the idea, but make it digestible for data consumers. Similarly, it would be possible with AI to explore data sets in BigQuery without using or being having the knowledge to actually run a SQL on your own. So you can use an AI on top of this and ask, hey, what are our recent numbers on visits during the last months? What is the development for certain platforms? Just to provide one of the examples and to enable them how to use this. That would be the learning path for data consumers in this way.
Good to know. I will consider this for my own future. Okay, my last question on data literacy. For organizations or teams that are just beginning their data literacy journey, whether it be conventional businesses in conventional industries or startups looking to educate more of the business, what's the biggest piece of advice for ICs or data leaders to take on board when embarking on this data literacy journey?
Yeah, sure. So for individual contributors, I highly recommend to see which training opportunities you have, to know what are your individual goals, what is your ambition, what is your vision of your own role, and what's insightful for you, and then join those trainings. I mean, we're talking about AI. I think you cannot educate yourself enough at the moment. They're so, as you said, it's changing every day, right? And it's really hard to be on top of what's coming. So have this curiosity of joining the trainings, but also have an idea where you would like to go, and even take learning as an opportunity to develop into another field or area that might be more exciting for yourself. So for an analyst, might be exciting to grow into a data scientist, right? Or an analytics engineer. And this could be a possible learning path that you can apply with those trainings. For leadership teams, or for leadership in specific, it's important to understand the impact that is possible with literacy and education, not only along data, but also AI. There are a lot of research and studies out there that I think just teams can have so many impact on revenue, on innovation. They can even data or generally product initiatives are 3 times more likely to be successful for companies that are leveraging literacy initiatives compared to companies that are not having any literacy initiatives in place. And I think that's really important to know, because you can connect the dots, you can bridge between, you mentioned the strategy and execution, but also between the different stakeholders. And this is really crucial. And yeah, covering your question on what is the biggest advice, having starting small maybe would be the biggest advice I can give. Start small. And with the pilot, we just started with, I think, 10 or 15 literacy initiatives in June. 1 hour, 1.5 hour trainings. Not overwhelm your team members, but have a curriculum that is tied to specific roles and needs. The focus groups that I just explained, from analysts to data consumers to roles and leadership teams and further. And then tie this to their needs, to the what's in it for me factor, to address their motivation. And then we started internally with internal experts, because we figured out that our internal experts have the biggest business knowledge, instead of having a big program on top of this. Now we are also having the support from DataCamp, an external learning provider, like supporting our internal trainings that we have, and especially for the AI learning curriculum, leverage a lot of trainings for different roles from DataCamp. I think that's a good add-on to our internal experts. And then we are also having now a lot of open door sessions with experts where, for example, our business stakeholders can contact our experts in Looker BI, for example, or data storytelling, and ask them for deep dive questions.
Sophia, that's really clear. Thank you for breaking it down for me. Great.
Thanks.
Being the expert in data and AI literacy that you are, where can people find out more about the work that you do if they're curious or they want to go on a similar data literacy path?
Sure, they can connect me on LinkedIn. I think there you can also find some of the slide decks that I presented in conferences in Prague or in also Hamburg. There was a conference on analytics where I promoted the literacy topic.
Okay, so LinkedIn is the pathway. I like it. And it seemingly is the pathway for them to learn about your academic reporting on the topic as well. Great. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for your data literacy wisdom, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.